Quiet cracking. That's the topic on today's What the Heck is Happening in HR?
For our podcast disclaimer, please visit the episode description.
Thanks for coming back to What the Heck is Happening in HR. And today we're talking about quiet cracking when employees are too broken to quit. Now, this isn't quiet quitting where employees just do the bare minimum. Quiet cracking really talks about an increase in disengagement and unhappiness among employees who, with this weakened labor market, might feel stuck at work. Now, you might say, well, wait a minute, what do you mean weakened labor market? There are some pockets where people have not reskilled or upskilled or moved to where the jobs are, and the job market's very different with the return to work. So there's some unhappiness certainly going on with people going, all right, fine, I'm just going back into the office. But we're seeing some statistics that are pretty interesting. In several different places, these statistics keep showing up. Over half of employees feel unhappy at work, either frequently or occasionally. Gen Z has the highest burnout rate of 74%. Nearly 20% of surveyed employees report dissatisfaction with their employer, yet only 7% have clear plans to leave. 35% of employees feel their company isn't doing enough to support health and well-being. We saw that in the MetLife report. They do a wonderful report every year, and I actually review it with my students. And it showed that trust is so important in benefits, and employees just aren't feeling it. And 34% say they're unable to cope comfortably with the workload. So this is so different than the Great Resignation or the economic turmoil that was in place. This is basically employees saying there's nothing I can do about this. So what are we going to do about it? First of all, let's watch for the signs of it. Nobody's going to come up to you in HR or as a manager and say, I'm just going to do the bare minimum. And you go, oh, that's quiet quitting. Or, I'm just not participating anymore. So let's talk about what that is and what it looks like. So you're going to see a reduction in participation in meetings. You're going to see people who don't raise their hands. It isn't that they're not being collaborative, but they're not wanting to participate anymore. They really have a lack of enthusiasm. You see a real minimum engagement by them. You see some declining performance. Really doing that bare minimum just as if they were quiet quitting, but they haven't. We used to say those are the sorts of people who quit but forgot to leave the building. You'll see a change in their communication patterns. You're going to see people who perhaps don't engage as much, don't reply as quickly, perhaps don't speak up at meetings. And there's something where another little word that's come about called job hugging, staying out of fear rather than commitment to the job. Now, many, many decades ago, there was something called job lock, and that was before COBRA. And what happened then is that people wouldn't leave their company because of the healthcare benefits, because pre-existing clauses existed. And so if you had a disease, let's just say diabetes, or you had a family member with diabetes, that you knew that you were going to be without coverage for the waiting period at your new company, and you didn't want to go without healthcare coverage. So we called that job lock, that people were locked into the job because of that. But this is called job hugging, staying out of fear rather than commitment. So why is this worse than just quitting? It's because they're sucking the air and the life out of the business. If they quit, they just don't engage at all. But these are the people who are perhaps even trying to find a job while they're on the job. They might be looking at the job as the savings account. They can build their network. They can update their LinkedIn profile. and then they can leave. What will happen when the economy improves? What will happen when the market opens up a little bit? We think there'll probably be a bit of shifting around, a mass exodus from some companies where people have felt like they had all this independence, especially those working from home, but now suddenly they don't. So, what can we do in HR? We've got to look at burnout. We've got to look at metrics. We've got to understand what the metrics are telling us. We need to see what the career paths are what's happening with them. We need to look at when people are leaving. We need to see the progress that people are making from one step to another step. We need to understand how people are feeling undervalued. Because when people feel undervalued, meaning they don't feel they can contribute, they don't feel heard, they don't feel they have a voice, or they're just discounted. Perhaps they say something, but when somebody higher up or another favorite employee says it, then it's heard suddenly. So when we watch meetings and really even just sit back and watch the meeting and the dynamics in a meeting, we can learn so much. So, HR, I challenge you to go sit in a meeting, not your own, but ask if you can sit in a staff meeting and be able to see just what the dynamics are. What's happening in that area? What's happening in that meeting? How are people engaging or not engaging with each other? I know we'd like to engage with you every Monday at what the heck is happening in HR. Please click that subscribe button because new episodes drop every Monday.